Fired, they rush on. First Hector seeks the foes, and with superior vengeance greatly glows. But o'er the dead the fierce Patroclus stands, and rousing Ajax roused the listening bands. Heroes, be men! Be what you were before, or weigh the great occasion, and be more. The chief who taught our lofty walls to yield lies pale in death, extended on the field. To guard his body Troy in number flies. 'Tis half the glory to maintain our prize. Haste, strip his arms, the slaughter round him spread, and send the living Lycians to the dead. The heroes kindle at his fierce command. The martial squadrons close on either hand. Here Troy and Lycia charge with loud alarms. Thessalia there, and Greece oppose their arms. With hard shouts they circle round the slain. The clash of armor rings o'er all the plain. Great Jove, to swell the horrors of the fight, o'er the fierce armies pours pernicious night, and round his son confounds the warring hosts, with fate ennobling with a crowd of ghosts. Now Greece gives way, and great Epigeus falls, Agaclius' son, from Budium's lofty walls, who chased for murder thence a suppliant came to Peleus, and the silver-footed Dane. Now sent to Troy, Achilles' arm to aid, he pays due vengeance to his kinsman's shade. Soon as his luckless hand had touched the dead, a rock's large fragment thundered on his head. Hurled by Hectorian force, it cleft in twain his shattered helm, and stretched him o'er the slain. Fierce to the van of fight Patroclus came, and like an eagle darting at his game, sprung on the Trojan and the Lycian band. What grief thy heart, what fury urged thy hand, O generous Greek, when with full vigour thrown at Sthenelus flew the weighty stone, which sunk him to the dead, when Troy too near that arm drew back, and Hector learned to fear. Far as an able hand a lance can throw, or at the list, or at the fighting foe, so far the Trojans from their lines retired, till Glaucus, turning, all the rest inspired. Then Bathyclius fell beneath his rage, the only hope of Chalcon's trembling age. Wide o'er the land was stretched his large domain, with stately seats and riches blessed in vain. Him, bold with youth and eager to pursue the flying Lycians, Glaucus met and slew. Pierced through the bosom with a sudden wound, he fell, and falling made the fields resound. The Achaeans sorrow for their hero slain, with conquering shouts the Trojans shake the plain. And crowds to spoil the dead, the Greeks oppose, an iron circle round the carcass grows. Then brave Laogonus resigned his breath, dispatched by Merion to the shades of death. On Ida's holy hill he made abode, the priest of Jove, and honoured like his god. Between the jaw and ear the javelin went, the soul exhaling issued at the vent. His spear Aeneas at the victor threw, who stooping forward from the death withdrew. The lance hissed harmless o'er his covering shield, and trembling struck and rooted in the field. There yet, scarce spent, it quivers on the plain, sent by the great Aeneas' arm in vain. Swift as thou art, the raging hero cries, and skilled in dancing to dispute the prize. My spear, the destined passage had it found, had fixed thy active vigour to the ground. O valiant leader of the Dardan host, insulted Merion thus retorts his boast. Strong as you are, 'tis mortal force you trust. An arm as strong may stretch thee in the dust. And if to this my lance the fate be given, vain are thy vaunts, success is still from heaven. This instant sends thee down to Pluto's coast, mine is the glory, his thy parting ghost. O friend, Menoetius' son this answer gave, with words to combat, ill befits the brave. Not empty boast the sons of Troy repel, your swords must plunge them to the shades of hell. To speak beseems the council, but to dare in glorious action is the task of war. This said, Patroclus to the battle flies, great Merion follows, and new shouts arise. Shields, helmets rattle as the warriors close, and thick and heavy sounds the storm of blows. As through the shrilling vale or mountain ground, the labours of the woodman's axe resound. Blows following blows are heard re-echoing wide, while crackling forests fall on every side. Thus echoed all the fields with loud alarms, so fell the warriors, so rung their arms. Now great Sarpedon on the sandy shore, his heavenly form defaced with dust and gore, and stuck with darts by warring heroes shed, lies undistinguished from the vulgar dead. His long disputed course the chiefs enclose, on every side the busy combat grows. Thick as beneath some shepherd's thatched abode, the pails high foaming with a milky flood, the buzzing flies, a persevering train, incessant swarm, and chaste return again. Jove viewed the combat with a stern survey, and eyed that flashed intolerable day. Fixed on the field his sight, his breast debates the vengeance due, and meditates the fates, whether to urge their prompt effect and call the force of Hector to Patroclus' fall, this instant see his short-lived trophies won, and stretch him breathless on his slaughtered son, or yet, with many a soul's untimely flight, augment the fame and horror of the fight. To crown Achilles' valiant friend with praise, at length he dooms, and that his last of days shall set in glory, bids him drive the foe, nor unattended sees the shades below. Then Hector's mind he fills with dire dismay, he mounts his car and calls his hosts away. Sunk with Troy's heavy fates, he sees decline the scales of Jove, and pants with awe divine. Then, nor before, the hardy Lycians fled, and left their monarch with the common dead. Around, in heaps on heaps, a dreadful wall of carnage rises, as the heroes fall. So Jove decreed. At length the Greeks obtain the prize contested, and despoil the slain. The radiant arms are by Patroclus borne. Patroclus' ships the glorious spoils adorn. Then thus to Phoebus in the realms above spoke from his throne the cloud-compelling Jove. Descend, my Phoebus, on the Phrygian plain, and from the fight convey Sarpedon slain. Then bathe his body in the crystal flood, with dust dishonored and deformed with blood. O'er all his limbs ambrosial odor shed, and with celestial robes adorn the dead. Those rites discharged, his sacred course bequeathed to the soft arms of silent sleep and death. They to his friends the immortal charge shall bear. His friends a tomb and pyramid shall rear. What honors mortals after death receive, those unavailing honors we may give. Apollo bows, and from Mount Ida's height, swift to the field, precipitates his flight. Thence from the war the breathless hero bore, veiled in a cloud, to silver Simois' shore. There bathed his honorable wounds, and dressed his manly members in the immortal vest, and with perfumes of sweet ambrosial dews restores his freshness, and his form renews. Then sleep and death, two twins of winged race, of matchless swiftness, but of silent pace, received Sarpedon at the gods' command, and in a moment reached the Lycian land. The course amidst his weeping friends they laid, where endless honors wait the sacred shade. Meanwhile Patroclus pours along the plains, with foaming coursers and with loosened reins. Fierce on the Trojan and the Lycian crew, ah, blind to fate, thy headlong fury flew, against what fate and powerful Jove ordain. Vain was thy friend's command, thy courage vain, for he, the god whose counsels uncontrolled dismay the mighty and confound the bold, the god who gives, resumes, and orders all, he urged thee on, and urged thee on to fall. Who first, brave hero, by that arm was slain, who last beneath thy vengeance pressed the plain, when heaven itself thy fatal fury led, and called to fill the number of the dead. Adrestus first, Autonomous then succeeds, Echeclus follows, next young Megas bleeds, Epistor, Melanippus bite the ground, the slaughter, Elasus and Mulius crowned. Then sunk Pilartes to eternal night, the rest dispersing, trust their fates to flight.